with only one. I decided to be a little bit selective today. Only one NFL game really kind of caught my eye over the weekend, and that was the Ravens and the Chargers. Now, since one of the most bizarre games that I've ever witnessed, in which the Baltimore Ravens lost to the Las Vegas Raiders on the opening weekend of the NFL season, the Ravens all of a sudden have rattled off 5 straight wins. They're 5-1 all of a sudden, despite, again, one of the most bizarre football games that I've ever seen in the NFL. And they were sluggish out of the gates to start the season, collected their first win against the Chiefs, thanks in large part due to the heroics of Lamar Jackson, but also the fumbling woes of the Chiefs. Then you come back up, it's the Justin Tuckered, the Detroit Lions, with the historic field goal. Then you knock off a Broncos team that at the time was undefeated. You follow that up with a victory over the Colts on Monday Night Football in overtime, and then most recently against the Chargers yesterday. So by hook or by crook, the Baltimore Ravens have defeated the AFC favorites in the Kansas City Chiefs and the new hot, trendy pick that everyone's been swooning over in the LA Chargers and Justin Herbert. And all of a sudden, they're 5-1. They are a 5-1 football team. One of the few 5-1 football teams in the league, along with the Rams at 5-1. The Cardinals are 6-0, and the Buffalo Bills play tonight. They're 4-1 with the potential of going 5-1. So this is one of the reasons why I've never understood this narrative surrounding Lamar Jackson about he's not a winning player. He's not a winning football player. I've never understood this false narrative that you can't win with Lamar Jackson. He's not a Super Bowl caliber winning quarterback. Because at the end of the day, he simply just wins. And yesterday was a perfect example of how everything in a game can feel out of sorts, can feel out of whack, and yet you look up at the final score, and once again, Lamar Jackson is on the winning end of a football game. Because this is the latest example in which Lamar Jackson wasn't that good yesterday. Threw 2 interceptions, really wasn't as prolific of a runner or a passer yesterday. Yet, here you have the Baltimore Ravens blowing out the LA Chargers, who had been rolling. The only loss was to a game-winning Greg Zuerlein field goal against the Cowboys, who in their own right have won 5 straight since the opening week. So you have a West Coast team in the Chargers. They're coming from the West Coast. They just scored 47 points against the Browns that have the second-rated defense in the NFL. And they got to play an early morning kickoff on the East Coast against the Baltimore Ravens team that ostensibly was playing on shorter rest, given the fact that they had to face the Colts on Monday Night Football. And yet everything about this game just felt weird. It felt extremely weird. And to be honest, there wasn't so much I could glean from this matchup as it pertains to the Chargers, because it was almost inexplicable what happened to them yesterday, how they almost imploded. None of the wide receivers could make any catches. Justin Herbert was throwing pinpoint passes, and they were just dropping everything. I don't know what happened to Mike Williams. I know he was questionable to play, and he really wasn't targeted at all. And I love Brandon Staley, the head coach, and I think that he's well on his way to having a really good, promising coaching career. He's young. He's bright. He's confident. He's defensive-minded. Why are you targeting, though, Jalen Guyton on 5 pass attempts, and especially on crucial 3rd and 4th downs? That didn't make any sense to me. You've got Keenan Allen. What are you doing throwing it to Jalen Guyton? No offense to Jalen Guyton. He was 1 for 5 on balls that were thrown to him that he caught. So it was a little bit uncharacteristic, the play calling from the Chargers, and again, the travel, going cross-country. There's not much I can glean from their perspective. And conversely, for the Ravens, this is a team that, again, Lamar Jackson didn't play that well. 1 touchdown pass, 2 interceptions. The defense played a lot better than the offense did, which again, coming into this game, Ravens were a top 5 offense, not necessarily a top 5 defense. They're a middle of the pack defense. Yet you look up at the scoreboard, 34-6. 34-6. Maintaining and controlling one of the hottest offenses in the NFL. Again, they scored 47 points, the Chargers did last week, to the Browns, who in many eyes are viewed as a title contender, at least before we started seeing the offensive woes of Baker Mayfield. We don't know what's going to happen with him and his shoulder, but that I digress. But again, what I take away from this, and especially the ultimate performance and the outcome, is this is Lamar Jackson's leadership rubbing off this team. This is Lamar Jackson's winning intangibles rubbing off this team. The confidence and the aura that he exudes just radiates the locker room. It radiates through the entire locker room and through the entire coaching staff, because this isn't a game where if you were really watching it from start to finish, you're saying to yourself, yeah, the Ravens absolutely dominated it. You can't quite pinpoint exactly what the play of the game was. You just look up at the score, and the Ravens were dominating. So this is precisely why I've just never understood the idea that Lamar Jackson can't be a winning quarterback, isn't going to be winning at the next stage. This guy is 34-12. He just passed Dan Marino for the most wins before 25, which I'll touch on in my Malkins moments. He's led the Ravens to a top seed in the AFC. He's led the Ravens to the postseason twice as the starting quarterback, not just for taking over Joe Flacco a couple years ago. He's won a playoff game. He's slowly getting better and better. So I've always been enamored with Lamar Jackson. I've always been a fan of his, but I don't think it was hard to quantify how much his game impacts the rest of the team, because normally he had to be spectacular for the team to win. Yesterday was a perfect example of that not being the case, where the entire team just kind of rallied around him and around the confidence that they have in him and pulling out a victory. So I'm not going to make any bold proclamations or statements about the Chargers. I think this is kind of an anomaly game for them. I think this is just a clunker for them. They just didn't have juice. Early morning, East Coast kickoff. They just weren't ready. And the Ravens pounced on him. But this is significant in the standings, because now the Baltimore Ravens are sitting in a really good spot at 5-1 atop the AFC again. The Bills play tonight against the Titans. Who knows who's going to win that? If the Bills win, okay, then the Ravens and the Bills now battling it out with the best record in the AFC. But now the Ravens have collected a huge tiebreaker over the Chargers, who are one of the best teams. So from a standings perspective, it's a really good win for the Ravens. Again, not sure what to take away, what to draw from the Chargers' perspective, but it's less about the Chargers today and more just a perfect example of how Lamar Jackson's playmaking and leadership skills were on full display and how that's permeated throughout this entire team. So big shout out to the Ravens and Lamar Jackson, John Harbaugh, that entire coaching staff. Happy you guys are 5-1. Impressive win, start to finish. Impressive win, start to finish.